Monk fruit extract. Now, this is really a rising star. Now, sometimes monk fruit extract, actually quite commonly monk fruit extract, is known as lo han guo. Now, what's quite spectacular about monk fruit extract in this systematic review, in particular looking at 5 randomized controlled trials, is that it is so much more than just a non-caloric sweetener. It has so many added potential benefits to it that it really has become a rising star, such as lower insulin response, better glycemic control, reduction in sugar cravings, and what surprised me the most is the reduction in inflammation, especially when it comes to issues of the throat. So, without further ado, let's get right into this study. Monk fruit extract and sustainable health, a PRISMA-guided systematic review of randomized controlled trials. Monk fruit extract, a natural non-caloric sweetener, is gaining interest for its potential metabolic benefits, but its effects and regulatory status require further evaluation. Yes, generally recognized as safe in the United States, obviously China, and a lot of other countries, but EU, lagging just a little bit behind. Require further evaluation. The objective, this PRISMA-guided systematic review synthesizes findings from randomized control trials, assessing the impact of MFE, monk fruit extract, on metabolic health, lipid profiles, inflammation, and regulatory considerations. The results. 5 randomized controlled trials met the inclusion criteria, demonstrated that monk fruit extract reduces postprandial glucose levels by 10 to 18% and insulin responses by 12 to 22%. A lower insulin response, just to explain, is generally indicated better glucose control and improved insulin sensitivity. Now, let's look at the charts, or I should say the studies that they looked at. Now, keep in mind, you may notice these are single-dose studies because you pretty much find out your information right away because looking at the effect on insulin, glucose control, and sugar cravings, so on and so forth. So it's single dose. But the results are quite spectacular. I took the liberty of utilizing Gemini, and we've made some bar charts, and this may give you a little bit more of a visual cue onto how effective it actually is. Now to proceed forward, other things you may find interesting. This is quite intriguing to highlight. This is what I mean, the difference between zero-calorie sweetener and non-nutritive sweetener. This could be 0 calorie, but it's not necessarily non-nutritive. To proceed, monk fruit extract has been shown to reduce markers of inflammation, contributing to better immune function and metabolic health. Elevated levels of interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha are associated with chronic low-grade inflammation, contributing to insulin resistance, impaired glucose metabolism, and increased cardiometabolic risk. Therefore, the observed reductions in these markers after monk fruit extract consumption may reflect broader immunometabolic benefits beyond just glycemic control. They reported that monk fruit extract supplementation led to a 25% reduction in these inflammatory cytokines compared to a placebo. Isn't that amazing? So here you are, you're taking basically a sugar substitute in many people's eyes. Even though, again, once again, we'll call it a 0-calorie sweetener, not a non-nutritive sweetener. And yet it yields positive outcomes in other areas besides just satiating a sweetness craving, emphasizing its potential in mitigating chronic inflammation. In addition, mogicides in monk fruit show strongly antioxidant properties which neutralize free radicals and promote oxidative stress reduces the free radicals that promote oxidative stress and cell damage. So the monk fruit actually helps reduce it down. I almost made it sound like it did it. All right, but to proceed forward, and this brings us to the next particular study. Now, I focused on the one closest to us to China 2019 because the other one was a combination, and that could lead to some confounding, meaning other ingredients in the lozenge. But look at this. Look at the results that we have there in regard to basically after 48 hours of generally throat issues. And you can see the results as follows. Now, what I'm going to do is going to break it down into a line chart to give better clarity. Again, utilizing Python, Gemini, Jupyter 3, and so on and so forth. So there we have it. Many of these results. Now, if you look at the comparison, they compared it to black tea. But yet, even though they're comparing to black tea, and black tea is pretty good in its own right, a lot of individuals were free of those particular ailments at the end of this particular 48-hour study. Now let's go to the conclusion. Our review, quoting, shows that monk fruit extract may be a promising alternative to sugar and artificial sweeteners, offering metabolic benefits, anti-inflammatory properties, and potential cardioprotective effects, but long-term clinical trials are needed to establish a safety profile of monk fruit extract, talking to the EU, and its potential role in chronic dietary interventions. The available randomized controlled trials demonstrate significant reductions in glucose levels, insulin resistance, and inflammatory markers, supporting the potential in sustainable dietary strategies. Moreover, monk fruit's extract's capacity to serve as a high-intensity sweetener with only minimal impact on blood glucose levels makes it an ideal candidate for innovation in the functional food and sugar reduction strategies. Its incorporation into food technology and diet plans can help support people managing diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and obesity, contributing to broader public health goals. Of course, we're looking at a lot larger picture than just basically on an individual level. Again, reference to the EU. You can see the highlights where they like to see these additional studies move towards and regulatory compliances. But still, just the same, monk fruit has been around for a while, and I mean, many years, and no one would have ever guessed at this point in time and juncture in the future that it may be looking at a very promising non-caloric sweetener with nutritive benefits. Again, gratitude to the researchers, phenomenal. I am humbled you watch and look forward to seeing what you and I discover next week. All right, catch you all next time. See you then. Bye.